time to get up on a morning unlike any we have ever seen. The NCAA tournament canceled. No college championships will be contested until the fall. Meanwhile, in the NBA, an apology from Rudy Gobert and a league left waiting with far more questions than anyone has answers. Meanwhile, the games cease, but the business does not, at least in the NFL, where critical decisions stand to get made in the next 5 days. We'll provide all the answers we have as we get up with you on this morning, the day the world of sports has stopped. So says the New York Post, and candidly, that is an obvious reality with all of the cancellations and postponements that were announced yesterday. Greeny and Laura, Mike Tannenbaum, Dan Graziano here. We have many ready to go with us this morning as we will bring you all the latest news from inside and outside of the world of sports on this day, where we can begin by telling you, as you already know, there will be no March Madness, nor will there be May Madness, which some had hoped yesterday. Thursday afternoon, the NCAA officially canceled all remaining winter and spring championships, including both the men's and women's NCAA basketball tournaments due to the coronavirus outbreak. And the NCAA statement came from the president today. NCAA President Mark Emmert and the Board of Governors canceled the Division I men's and women's 2020 basketball tournaments, as well as all remaining winter and spring NCAA championships. This decision is based on the evolving COVID-19 public health threat, our ability to ensure the events do not contribute to spread of the pandemic, and the impracticality of hosting such events at any time during this academic year, given ongoing decisions by other entities. Reaction to that news poured in yesterday.
Extremely disappointed. Extremely disappointed. I think all of us felt we could postpone and even postpone into May or whatever, and then if we needed to cancel, we could cancel then. But if that's what they're doing, then I guess that's what they're doing. This is a sad day.
Yeah, it's an intelligent decision. I think it's just irresponsible to continue and put these student athletes in jeopardy of contracting the virus just to play a tournament.
So I was obviously disappointed our season came to such an abrupt end, but I also know that, there's things bigger than basketball.
What I did was I told them, I said, look, this has never happened before. This is unprecedented, and it's awful. It's the worst kind of news that you can get as an athlete about competition. You know, losing, getting beat is one thing, but never getting a chance to compete is something else. It's an unprecedented event, so you have to take unprecedented measures.
This group that I had, and all these kids, I got calls from other coaches where their seniors were bawling in tears, like we don't get the chance to do this. Kids that are leaving programs early, same deal. Your last time playing isn't walking off the court. Your last time playing was prior because it got yanked from you like this. And it wasn't anybody's fault. It had to be done.
So there were many players who took to social media yesterday to express their feelings. Seton Hall senior and Big East Player of the Year Miles Powell tweeted, "Dear Seton Hall, I love you." You see there Duke sophomore Trey Jones tweeting, "It doesn't seem real still." Duke freshman Cassius Stanley tweeted, "Heartbreaking, but the right thing to do." Kansas sophomore Devon Dotson tweeting out, "A nightmare." Michigan State senior guard Cassius Winston posted a photo to Instagram along with the caption, "Forever a Spartan dog." And so the reaction from across the world of college basketball. Of course, no one is more immediately identifiable with March Madness or college basketball than our own Dick Vitale, the Hall of Famer. And Dickie V joins us here. Dick, I'd like to just give you the floor first and foremost. What are your feelings on this day after the announcement that this tournament that we all love so much had to be canceled?
Well, Greeny, they had no choice whatsoever. I mean, the World Health Organization declared it a pandemic. So from that standpoint, basketball had to be curtailed, no doubt about it. And as you said, you love the game. I love the game. All your people at work with you love the game. I've often said 3 weeks, it's the greatest sporting event of them all. I feel strongly about that. Everybody gets involved, grandma, grandpa. My only feeling is this. I really feel, as I reflect back after I was on yesterday early with Reese Davis, and I said it was the right thing to do. But now when I reflect, I think about this. Why not follow the pattern of Adam Silver, who's a brilliant, brilliant leader? I mean, the guy's a brilliant leader. He's educated certainly at Duke, and he has that great education, but he also had a doctorate of leadership ability working with David Stern. And I thought his decision to postpone, to say, we'll revisit it in 1 month. What would have been wrong doing that? To revisit it. Maybe then step one, have a blue ribbon panel of all the great coaches sitting, brainstorming, trying to analyze and figure out how we can possibly save the season. If word comes down, obviously, that the disease has been under control. If it's not, obviously, you got to cancel. But I think, why not postpone for a month and sit there? My heart bleeds for all those kids that wanted that one shining moment. I think about the coach at Liberty, coach at East Tennessee State, Richie McKay, and Coach Forbes, with 30 games, a special moment. I think about the kids at Dayton, Greeny, having a magnificent, magical year that they may never ever duplicate. Obi Toppin could have become a household name. I think about the seniors that busted their guts so much. You know, the Peyton Pritchard from down there at Oregon. I think about Miles Powell, who you mentioned. I think about guys like Marcus Howard and all those seniors. A kid by the name of Killian Tilly, who was injured so much as a senior at Gonzaga. Those kids not getting a chance for this magical moment after they sweat like crazy. I say this, Greeny, a suggestion. Number one, they should have the selection, announce the teams that would have been in the tournament, even if it's not going to be played. And then step number two, take all those kids, especially the seniors, and say to them, we are going to grant you, the NCAA, another year of eligibility, and it's up to you if you want to come back or you want to leave. But I think that's the right thing to do. And then go to the spring sports. All those kids should have another year added to their eligibility and not be denied. I just feel strongly about this. Obviously, health and safety must be the number one priority. There's no doubt about that. And for that, I salute them. But I think rushing to judgment as they did, I look back and think that they could have waited just a little bit longer, had time on your side to see what would be transpiring.
It's something that I've heard other people suggest, the idea of giving all the players an additional year of eligibility. I'm sure that's something that will be discussed at the highest levels down the road. One other thing I wanted to ask you about today, if there's something that we saw over the course of this week, for example, within the city of Indianapolis, on the same evening, the NCAA announced that the tournament at that time would be played without fans in the stands. And in that same city, that same night, the Big Ten tournament was being played with fans in the stands. It has brought to the idea that many people believe that having all the different conferences making their own decisions for each other without a central authority overlooking all of it, that perhaps the time has come for that to end. What do you make of that notion this week?
Well, Greeny, I've been saying, I've written in books 10 years ago and 5 years ago, my latest book, that we need a czar. We need somebody in basketball that can be somebody that could work hand in hand with the NCAA and represent basketball to sit there. Where was the coordination there? How do you have conference tournaments going on? And meantime, the NCAA is announcing what they did. I think that's ludicrous, absurd, and really that gets back again to executive leadership. That gets back to scenarios I mentioned earlier with Adam Silver, where they do things. And I think that maybe they should sit down with some of these other leaders and get ideas and concepts from one another. But there's no doubt about it, Greeny, a czar is needed in the world of basketball to be able to tackle some of these issues, whether it be eligibility issues, whether it be waiver issues, whether it be rules violations. They need somebody there that can handle that effectively and efficiently.
All right, Dick Evey, our very best, as always, to you and Lorraine and the kids and the grandchildren, everybody else. You stay safe, and we will see you. We look forward to seeing your face and hearing your voice again soon, whether there is or isn't an NCAA tournament. Thank you, Dick Vitale. Meanwhile, I would point out that according to the New York Times, there are roughly 1,600 confirmed or presumptive cases of the coronavirus in the U.S. currently, and there have been 41 fatalities due to the virus. Laura?
While most conferences around the country were canceling their conference tournaments late Thursday morning, St. John's and Creighton still tipped off and played the entire first half of their game in the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden before the league called things off. Here's Big East Commissioner Val Ackerman on why the teams started to play the game.
Well, it was just our view that we didn't feel like we needed a dramatic pull the players off the court in the middle of a game gesture. I mean, the folks were here. we just literally didn't think that another 15 or 20 minutes of game time was going to make that much of a difference. That said, we didn't think it was appropriate to send the athletes back out onto the floor during the halftime. So it was a judgment call that we made. It was just based on an assessment that we made. And again, we were making calls. Once we got this news about the other conferences, I felt it important to confer with the city, and that happened.
College basketball analyst Sean Farnham joins us. And look, these are unprecedented times. Everyone trying to figure this out real time. What do you think about what Val Ackerman said in the Big East tournament, beginning to play a game in their tournament yesterday?
Well, I started getting word about 10:30 a.m. Eastern time that there was going to be a conference call amongst the Power 5 commissioners. That did not include the Big East from what I was told. And if you look at the timeline, there was about a 45-minute conversation that took place. Then they had to gather the information and start talking to the university presidents to make them aware of the decisions that were being made across the country in other conferences. The St. John's Creighton game started 30 minutes prior to that and what was going on in the ACC. And if we remember, it was about 12:10, 12:15 yesterday that the ACC pulled Florida State off the floor and officially announced that their tournament was going to be canceled. So the timeline in which she's talking about, Val's talking about, is 100% accurate. When they started receiving information that the other conferences were going in this direction, their game had already started. And they made the decision that then at halftime that they were going to take it off. I said yesterday, as Reese Davis and LaVonzo Ellis and I took to air, it was baffling, though, that there was no communication to the Big East and that the Big East indeed tipped off their basketball games. And Laura, you know this. You've been in studio up here in Bristol, Connecticut, and they have that big bank, and there's 8 screens, and 7 of them were off, and 1 of them was on with a basketball game playing as we're looking at the real possibility at that point in time that we knew what was coming down later on in the day, that there would indeed be no NCAA tournament this year.
Sean, you and I have covered NCAA tournaments. We've been in these great environments.